Welcome back to the Band Guide. I'm your band guy, Colin, and today I want to show you an easy trick to tell if you've set your individual volumes right. Your individual volumes in your mix is the most important thing in the mixing process, getting the individual volumes of all the individual tracks relative to each other set right. But it can be hard to tell if you set them right, especially once you start to get hyper-focused and really zero in on what's going on with the mix. You might start to feel like once you start focusing on the vocal, wow, I can't hear the vocal here, I can't hear the vocal here, and you end up turning up way too much, and your whole mix suffers because of it, or your guitar, or your snare drum, or whatever it is. And so I use this little trick in every mix that I do to be able to tell, have I set my individual levels right in a way that's going to work for this mix? So it's really, really easy to do. Let me set the scene for you really quickly. We're working on a new song with my band Broke Royals, and the singer, we're coming up near the end of the mixing process, and he says, man, I've listened to the song a bunch, and I love it. I think it sounds great, but I just can't tell, like, are those vocals a little bit too quiet? This is very common, right? We all zero in on our part that we did in the song, and with a dense mix like we have here, it can be hard to tell. Like, I like the sound of the vocals. It's not that I can't hear them, but are they just a little bit too quiet? And so what I told him to do is, hey, turn this mix down as quiet as you can so you can barely hear it, and tell me if you can still hear the vocals. This idea of turning our mix way down, there's something that it does that's magical, where it just kind of uncovers what's actually going on inside of our mix. And so I do this with every mix. All of a sudden, if you can still hear the key elements with your mix at those lower levels, then you know you've set those individual levels right. And maybe you actually need to bring some things up. Like if, for example, he got it really quiet and he could still hear the guitars but not hear his vocals, that's an indicator that maybe the guitars are a little bit too loud or the vocals are a little bit too quiet, right? Maybe bring up the vocals a little bit, bring down the guitars, or vice versa, whatever you need to do. So that's the setup here. So let's go to the section of the song where this is happening. The idea here is that he's singing here, this is his vocal here, and when these guitars right here, this big wall of guitars comes in, he was worried and kind of felt like the vocals were getting buried. And I said, check it out at a quieter level. So let's do that together. And I want you to tell me, as we get into this, do you think those vocals are sitting too quiet? Let's listen to it once first at full volume, and then we'll listen to it again, and I'll bring the volume down.
Big dream is the invisible hand. They're running ads on your phone, they're running ads on TV. Probably be the last thing that you ever see.
Right? A lot is happening there. And you can see those guitars are pretty big in the mix, but are they actually covering the vocals? So what I want us to do this time is listen to the same exact thing, but we're going to bring the volume up here, this master volume, way down. You want to be sure to bring this back up to 0 after you're done. You can do that just by holding the Option and clicking on it. It will automatically set this back up to 0. But this is our last point of volume in our session. So by turning this down, we can tell what we're hearing in our mix. You could also just do this with your headphone amp on your interface or wherever it is, but this is one clear, easy way to do it. So we'll go and put that back up, and I'm going to bring the volume down and listen as those guitars come in. Can you still hear the vocals on top of them, or do the guitars sit above the vocals? Check it out.
Big dream is the invisible hand. They're running ads on your phone, they're running ads on TV. Probably be the last thing that you ever see.
Let's listen to that last phrase one more time right there. Right? It's subtle. I mean, it's quiet, so it's a little hard to tell, but I can still hear the vocals over those guitars. Those guitars aren't more prominent in the vocals to me. So that tells me that the vocals are still the loudest thing in the mix. I can still hear the kick drum. I can still hear the snare kick a little bit less. It's just natural. Anyway, you get the idea. I can still hear the key elements of the song, and in this case, I can hear the vocals over those guitars. So that answers that question for me. I don't actually need to bring up those vocals. I don't need to bring down those guitars. They're probably sitting in a good volume relative to each other. And because I've identified that as not being the problem, now I could go and look at other things that could be causing this issue where something is just feeling a little bit cloudy to him. So check this out. Try this in your mix. Do a quiet mix check. Just bring the volume way down and see if anything is feeling a little bit off when you are listening to it in a quiet volume. Now, as I said, getting your volumes right is the most important thing in the mixing process. So you really don't want to skip this. I like to factor this into my mixing process and do it after I get my initial volume set, which I always do as the first step of the mixing process. Now, if you've been struggling to get a mix that you're proud of, I want to give you something. It's called my 6-step checklist to a pro mix. And it's just a 6-step checklist. It just walks through the same 6 steps that all professional mixes have and how you can do them wherever it is you're making music, whether it's GarageBand or Logic or wherever. This 6-step checklist will give you a framework to follow that's going to guarantee you get a better final mix. And this is the first step. Getting your individual volumes set right is the first step in the 6-step checklist. So be sure to pick it up. It's free from link in the description below. It's really going to help you out. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Have you tried this quiet mix check before? And if not, are you going to try it on your next mix? Let me know in the comments below. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week with another video.
One thing